Hello and welcome to iHeart Cooking. I'm registered dietitian Jennifer Stachler.
And I'm Chef Dugan Wetzel.
Join us this month as Dugan and I make our way to Meijer to share some grocery shopping tips.
First section that we're going to talk about today are herbs, specifically fresh herbs. Fresh herbs, what's nice about them is they are everywhere, especially this time of year. They can come in these individual packs, pre-portioned and ready to go. I know sometimes that's kind of convenient, especially if you're doing certain recipes and you only need just a little bit, because they're like 1 ounce packages or ½ ounce packages, whatever you need. You can just grab those, use them up, and then you don't have any waste. Something that I like to do myself when I'm getting herbs, I make a list, my grocery list, before I go anywhere, so I know exactly what herbs, whatever spices, everything that I need. And I come in here, and if I need 4 or 5 tablespoons of cilantro for a couple different recipes, I actually get this stuff here. What's nice about this is you get this, and we'll just use this mint here as an example. You can chop these ends off right here, put it in like a mason jar with a little bit of water. Just keep an eye on the water. That should last you for about 2 weeks. So whereas these are already cut and they're already losing their life, the flavor's already releasing itself. This, you put in fresh water at home in mason jars, they'll last for about 2 weeks. So you're really not gonna be throwing much away. You can get creative and use new recipes, new things. This is perfect for that. Couple things that you'll notice used to be over here that aren't anymore. Parsley's over here, but basil is the big one. Basil is actually susceptible to cold weather, and it starts to get soft. It turns brown if it's in too cold of weather. So you actually want to store that at room temperature. So you're not going to find basil over here very much. You're going to find it out in the aisles out here as a plant or just pre-cut. So, I used to have that issue. I couldn't find it anywhere. Then I did some research on it, and it's actually over here. So we'll head that way. So yeah, as you can see, it's not in the refrigerated section where we're at. It's all out here, room temperature, and that is okay with this. Room temperature is perfectly fine. Actually, it would be preferable if you kept it at room temperature. You can get it this way. What's nice about Meijer, they actually sell it in its own plant. You can take that home, put it in the window, put it wherever you like. You water it and let it grow, let it keep. You can kind of inspect it as you're purchasing it. These up here, they look really nice. They almost look like leather. They've got a nice texture to them. They're kind of soft. But then, you just inspect the whole plant. You've got a couple pieces here where it's starting to brown a little bit. So you may want to look and try and find something else for that. But yeah, basil, parsley's another one. They want you to keep that out at room temperature rather than in the refrigerator because they are susceptible to cold weather and they kind of deteriorate. So while we're here, just to kind of hit a couple more, it's right next to the asparagus. When you're looking for asparagus, I personally like the pencil. They call them pencil thickness or the small. I don't usually go for the jumbo because the jumbo tend to get a little woody. They have a really woody texture to it. But when you're inspecting the asparagus to see kind of what you want to get, you want to look down here at the bottom. What you're looking for, and this is perfect, promise it's not staged, is completely green down here. That's when you know that it's going to be really in season. So you're going to have a couple pieces here that aren't completely green, but overall, this is actually a really good bunch because it's all completely green all the way down here. You're going to have a few that's kind of in season. It's starting to come into season. So you're not going to have it nearly as much. But yeah, you definitely want to inspect because see how it's white here? That's really fibrous. It's not going to be really good to eat. So you want to check to make sure that everything is completely green. Your squash, yellow and summer squash here, and your zucchini squash, yeah. You want it to be a little firm. You don't want anything spotty. You don't want anything to be soft. So when you feel it, you squeeze it just a little bit, you're going to know that that's going to be a pretty good zucchini. Now, past recipes, you've heard us say smaller is better. Smaller is going to be sweeter. The bigger they are, they're actually going to have seeds in them. So you want to make sure that you're not getting too big like the ones that you get in your garden, because those are going to have those really gigantic seeds, and pretty much the whole inside of it isn't going to be as pleasurable as you really want when you're eating it. So this size here, that's a good size. It's nice and sweet, nice and small. The seeds are pretty tiny on them. So this next section that we're in here, going to be looking at mushrooms. Now, it is really convenient to get the pre-sliced mushrooms. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'm like, I really don't feel like cutting mushrooms today, but I'm going to tell you, it'll save you money and it'll save you, quality. Because once you cut these mushrooms, you can actually see here on this product, it's starting to brown, it's starting to get soft. So what that means is that shelf life is starting to deteriorate. What I do, I always go for this, always get whole. Whole is better because it's going to last longer. You only cut up what you need, then you keep the rest whole. That just saves you time. It saves you from throwing things away. So ultimately, it saves you money. And when I look, what I'm looking for when I'm trying to get mushrooms, really clean. It's going to have that almost velvety top to it, where it's kind of, it'll grab your fingers, but it's not overly dark. It's not overly wet. I do recommend, obviously, since you are doing mushrooms, there's going to be dirt in there, so take them home and wash them, throw them in a colander, and just hit them with your hands and rub all that dirt off there. But you want it to almost be completely smooth on top. I myself like the mini Bellas just because I think they have a deeper flavor than the white buttons. But that's just me personally. They have a nicer, deeper texture and all that. But again, whites are the same thing. You want whites to be clean. You want them to be white. I mean, obviously they're going to have some dirt on them, but they need to be white. If they have bruising or anything like that, don't get them, because your shelf life is going to be really pretty short on them. Down here with the broccoli, this is all hardy fresh. This is little heads here. What you're going to be looking for, you want it to be a very dark green. You don't want very much yellow in there. You want it to be green. That's when you know that the broccoli is going to be at its peak flavor. That's when you know it's going to be good to actually start using and eat. We're going to move down here to the carrots. You're good. Just right down here. These are good. I like these. These are nice. The long carrots haven't been touched, haven't been affected. You just get a peeler, zip through them real fast, and they're ready to go. Something here. These are newer to the grocery aisle. They have the tops still on them. They look really nice. They make for a great presentation. We use them in our caterings quite a bit at the hospital. But when you get them home, cut this off. Because what's happening is this is pulled out of the ground, so there's no more soil. There's no nutrients getting into the carrot itself to keep that flavor, keep anything. So what's happening is everything that's inside this carrot is going up into the tops to nurture it, to keep it green, to give it all the flavor. So you're actually losing flavor out of your carrot by leaving these on. You can cut these up, you can chop them up and throw them in salads, you can throw them in some type of pasta dish, stir fry them with your carrots itself. These are absolutely good to go, good to use, but cut the tops off. That way your flavor is still staying in there, and you've got a pretty fresh carrot. Okay. So we're gonna come down here to cabbage real quick. Our cabbage, you wanna look for dark green, especially on the outside. You're gonna be looking for things that are pretty tight and only have maybe a couple leaves. Keep that on there. A couple leaves that are loose. Everything needs to be pretty firm. So you have just a few leaves on there. It's all brought together. It's not really loose and opening up. And you're going to be looking for something that's relatively heavy for its size. So when you pick it up, you have that idea, oh, this looks heavy. Well, if you pick this up and it feels a little heavier than what you think it is, that's going to be a good one to use. So that's something to look for with cabbage as well. Okay, so now we're going to head down to our bananas and kind of hit the melon area. So we've got obviously a couple different options here as far as bananas go. You've got the really green ones that you're going to have to wait just a little bit so that they become ripe and they're ready to use. You also have the yellows and then more. It's kind of like a stage of life, is what I would say. Is they're coming off, and then this is more towards the end of life here. What I do when I'm looking for bananas, my kids love them, so we eat them all the time. I go for all yellow, just because I know they're going to get eaten fast. 3 or 4 days, they're gone. So no real need to get these green ones and let them sit and wait. Yellow is always a good choice. They're already ready to go. You don't want too much green on them. You want them to be fairly, completely yellow. So yeah, that's when I'm choosing bananas. That's kind of what I look for. So we're over here, cantaloupe, honeydew, watermelon. Just to give you an idea. Now this is kind of just coming into season. There's really not a very good season for them right now, but stuff to look for when you're dealing with watermelon, especially, you're going to look at it. What you're going to want to see is a yellow spot. That's when you're going to know that they're ready to go. They're going to be really nice. This is another one of those, when you pick it up, it's going to feel heavy or it's going to feel hollow. This one actually feels really heavy, so you might be able to take this home and cut it up and really enjoy it. Another indicator with this one, there's quite a few with this. You can put it up here and kind of tap it with your palm. If it feels hollow, that's when you know it's a good quality melon. So that's something to look for when you're dealing with watermelon. When you're dealing with cantaloupe, it's kind of got that net looking cover over it. You actually want to look past that. You want it to be kind of golden yellow or a yellowish green color, so you can see it in here. That's really what you're looking for on the inside. You want to look past the netting. If it's white, it's not ready yet, so you don't want to take that one. You want it to have some sort of color to it, so that'll be what you look for as well. You want it also to be firm, like I'm feeling it, and it's pretty soft here on the bottom. This isn't one that I would actually go for. The color's really nice, but down here it's real soft. So you want to kind of look through them, make sure they're not white. Same with this, the honeydew. You want to have a nice yellow color to it. Obviously, it's going to be pretty firm as well on the outside. So just a consistent yellowish color. If it's white, again, not one of those things that you're going to want to mess with. So leave that alone if it's not yellow. Now we're here. Move on down the line here. Strawberries, blueberries. What you're looking for when you're dealing with those. Blueberries. You want them to be completely blue. You'll see in here, some of them have kind of an amberish red tint to them. That's when you know that they're not going to be as ripe as what you want. They're not going to be at their max flavor. You want them to be blue. You want them to be plump. So looking through here, you can see these are obviously pretty plump. I don't see very much red. I don't see really any red whatsoever. So those are good ones. I would probably grab these over the others. Dealing with strawberries now. I personally like to get the small to medium sized strawberries, especially ones that aren't white on top. Everything's got to be red all the way through. That's when you know that you're going to be, they aren't picked too early. They're at their full flavor. So, and this is really simple, and that's the nicest part about this packaging, is you can see everything. So you can look through, see if there's blemishes. So there's some spots in here, so I may discard that. But looking at the strawberries themselves, all the way at the top, everything's completely red. That's a good one to choose. So other than the spots, I'd probably just look around and find some more. But when I'm talking about white tops, looking at this stuff here, you can see it's almost green, so it's not completely there. So the flavor is not going to be as sweet, as intense of a flavor that you're looking for as like that one over there. So we're here at the tomato section. When I'm looking for tomatoes, obviously pretty easy. They're going to have a really nice firm flesh, not overly soft. I mean, they're going to give a little bit when you squeeze them. You don't want to push too hard, but you'll know when you see it if it's super soft. This is a really nice one. These are good for slicing, sandwiches, salads, things like that. This would be perfect for that. Got a couple, cherry tomatoes are really, really popular now, especially on salads and options. There are different kinds. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. There's about 5 different kinds of cherry tomatoes here. Some that have the word sugar bomb, some have flavor bomb, some that are just sweet grape tomatoes. It's really a preference. Now, some people like that acidity. Some people like the sweetness. Best way to tell which ones you want to get, you just pick them, grab them, take them home, try them out. If you like them, obviously you want to stick with that one. If you don't like them, you can try another one. There's options galore here. So here we are. We're in the fresh pepper section. Obviously, lots of choices. Greens, yellows, reds, orange, the Alohas. This is a favorite of my son, just because they look different. They've got a real nice sweetness to them. They got a real nice crunch. These are perfect for almost everything. You can saute them. You can throw them. You can eat them raw. Use them with hummus, ranch, whatever you eat with. But I like to steer more towards these. Again, this is a personal preference. They're a little sweeter, a little better taste for me. And I like to really take the red ones, saute them up, throw them in a pan, a little bit of oil, and really char them. Bring out that real intense red pepper flavor. Those are my favorites. Now, I know people that don't really like the sweetness, but they like that texture. So they lean more towards the green peppers. These are more subtle, more, I'm not going to say grass, but more of an earthy flavor to them. They're not nearly as sweet. So that would be a good choice if you're looking for more of that. So now we're going to go over to the onions. Tons and tons and tons of onion options, just like the tomatoes. The tomatoes have the cherries, the grapes, the Camparis, which are real nice meaty tomato aromas. Those are good for stews and tomato sauces, things like that. Same story with the onions. You've got regular yellow onions. Those are a little bit sweeter. Then obviously you come over here to the Vidalias, to the sweet onions themselves. These are a whole lot sweeter. I really like using the yellows and the sweets for things like French onion soup when I'm going to caramelize them and use them for different soups or things like that. So here at the end of the onions, the potato aisle, what you're looking for with potatoes, obviously you want them to be pretty consistent, not a lot of bumps, not a lot of blemishes. So that right there is a pretty good tomato. No green, obviously. What'd I say, tomato?
You said tomato.
Killer.
That's not tomato.
That's
potato.
Yeah. Okay. Put that back.
Take care.
So we're here, still in the onions, still in the potato section. What you're looking for when you're looking at potatoes, you want a really smooth surface, not a lot of blemishes, obviously no green. You want it to look like a potato should look. Same with the waxy, the gold potatoes. You want them to have a smooth coating on the outside, not a lot of blemishes. A lot of times you can get a peeler and kind of nick off those blemishes pretty quick, and then you're fine to use them. Kind of like what the cabbage was earlier with the onions. You want to hold the onion, and a good onion is going to be pretty firm, and it's going to have a little bit more weight than what you would think it would. So it's going to be a little heavier in your hand than what you're expecting. So like I'm holding this and I'm thinking of a baseball. It's obviously a little heavier than a baseball, so this is going to be a good onion for me. So we're back. We're going to talk about proteins right now, and especially right now we're going to talk about chicken. What's nice about chicken, and especially here at Meijer, they give you plenty of options. You've got your chicken breast with the ribs, so there's bone in here. Comes all the way down here to chicken wings, boneless chicken thighs, chicken breasts. Now I've noticed with chicken breasts, I mean, look at the size of these things. They're massive. They're so big. You can cut these in half and serve 2 or 3 people. I mean, they're huge, and a lot of that has to do with hormones, everything that is put into chickens to help them grow bigger, so that you can get this size and feed a lot of people for a fair amount of money, fairly cheap. Personally with me, especially with chicken, I go more bone-in wings, bone-in thighs, bone-in breasts, because it's just more flavor, it's more collagen. So however you're cooking it, that collagen is going to help kind of keep it from over drying, like drying out on you, especially with thighs. It's going to give it a nice rich flavor. Now it will take a little bit longer to cook, but it's going to be nice. It's really, really worth it. If I'm looking at buying chicken breasts, I'm definitely looking organic, simply because, I mean, you can look at it. This is filleted right down the middle. but these are like a regular sized chicken breast. The chickens that you see on the farm around here, that's the size you're going to be looking at. I'm afraid to see what size these chickens are. I mean, they're massive. So, but yeah, if I'm looking chicken breast, I'm looking organic for sure, just because of the size. I know that what's in it. I know it's healthier for me. I know that it's just a better product overall. Me personally, I don't normally get the pre-cut things. I go for whole bird myself because it's a whole bird. You get more for what you're buying. You know, it takes practice learning how to cut it. And what's great about that, YouTube, there are videos everywhere on how to cut chicken. You can watch the TV shows. We've deboned chicken before. I mean, these are things that you can, reference points you can look back at and see. But I get this, it's cheaper. I'm not buying 12 chicken breasts to feed my family. I just need 2. You know, throw a couple thighs in there. Really pretty simple, pretty easy, and you know, it's effective for me. So now we're moving into pork. Something that I'm seeing here a lot, which is convenient. I understand why they're doing it, is these pre-marinated tenderloins. So like this one's smoked mesquite, roasted garlic and herb, peppercorn. I mean, options, tons and tons of options. The issue with this is all the sodium that's inside there. There's a ton of sodium in there that doesn't necessarily have to be there. You can do the exact same thing. Make your own barbecue sauce. I mean, we've made barbecue sauce on the program before. You know, brown sugar, ketchup as a base, a little bit of molasses, some seasonings, mix it up, throw it in the bag, let it cook. You've got your own marinade. This one here, roasted garlic and herb. It's just basically a water solution. You can roast garlic in the oven, 400 degrees, let it get nice and soft, let it get nice and caramelized. And then herbs. You can use fresh herbs, you can use dried herbs. Mix it in with that solution, put it on here, and you've got the same thing, just almost none of the sodium that's in here that's in this prepackaged thing. Doesn't take too much time, but it'll save you in the long run health-wise. So we're getting into the other cuts of pork, moving towards the beef. We've got blades, we've got chops, thick cut chops. These are real nice. What I'm noticing more, there for a while there was a kick where a lot of people were going to the leaner, more white pork, so there's not a lot of fat you can see. Now we're starting to come back to the more heritage breeds where there's a little bit more marbling inside there, a little bit more flavor. And I'm looking forward to that, just because with this, there's no fat, there's no collagen. So when you cook this, there's nothing in there that's keeping it from drying out instantly. Whereas something with this, it's got a nice cap of fat on there. There's marbling on the inside. You can cook that for a little bit, and you know that it's not going to be super dried out. So something to look for. I know we try and make sure that you're not in eating a lot of fat. Put a little bit in here is okay, just to kind of keep it dry, keep it moist, or keep it not from being too dry and keeping it moist. So now we're moving into more of our cuts, our bigger cuts. We've got our bottom rounds. We've got a whole roast, which you can truss that off. Throw in some vegetables, carrots, onions, celery, roast that off in the oven. A little salt and pepper, that's perfect. Steaks, we've got bone-ins. Again, I personally like the bone-in just because it's flavor. I mean, there's fat, there's collagen in here that kind of just leaks into the meat itself and allows that to stay tender. You're gonna have to cook it a little bit longer, but that's okay. You want it to have flavor. Obviously, you're cooking steak. You want good flavor. Moving on down, ribeyes, my personal favorite cut, just because of the higher fat content. But that's another story for another day. So now we're getting into our ground turkeys. And when you look at the ground turkey, you'll see here 99% lean, 1% fat. This goes along, this is obviously a very healthy option for you. It's a very good option. I don't tend to go that lean simply because I like moisture in the food. I don't want to keep adding things to it so that it's not so dry. So if I'm going to eat turkey, I'm going to look at something like this where it's 85-15. Now, me being a chef and that's how I cook, I'm flavor. I want to make sure that people are enjoying the textures. It's not too dry for them. So I look more towards this. But if you're looking for healthy, super healthy, 99.1 is a great option. Keep moving down here. What's our 80-20? This is probably 80 to 90% of the beef that's sold is going to be an 80-20. Now you're 80% lean, so that's all muscle, that's all meat. And then you have 20% fat. That fat's just added in there again so that it doesn't dry out. It kind of helps bind everything together when you're making burgers or meatballs or something like that. That's what that's for. So that's what you're looking for. They go to 90-10. I even think they go to 97-3 sometimes with beef. So it depends on what you're looking for and what your needs are. So I'm just kind of ended up here. We've got our grass-fed 90-10s. This is more your organic. This is something that, what's nice about Meijer's they're really pushing towards is the cleaner, the healthier, where it's coming from and all of that. So you want to kind of look for that. You want to look for grass-fed. You want to look for pasture-raised. So yeah, that's kind of what we're looking at here as far as proteins go. I'm looking here at the red ones. Same thing as the whites, same thing as the yellow, especially the bulk size here. You want them to be firm. You want them to be heavy. I personally would like the red ones better because I'm more of a bite. I really like that, enjoy that bite that comes with the red onion. It's one of my favorite flavors, condiment flavors. If you don't like that, this right here is a great option for you. You have that subtle onion flavor that you'll get from the shallot, but it's not nearly as intense. Some people get concerned because it's red. They think that it's going to be just as bitey as a red onion. That is not the case at all. They're very, very subtle, and they're really great, as a substitute for onions for people that don't like that intense flavor that you get from onions. So that's pretty much, I'm sure you're tired of hearing from me, so I'm going to send you on down to Jennifer now.
So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what I look at when I'm looking at the grocery store, and as a dietitian, kind of what I want to focus on first is the labels. Right now we are actually seeing a change of labels happening. We have original labels on the market, and we also have new labels coming on the market. So I kind of want to just show you what the difference would be for them. So I actually have a bag of potatoes here, being in the produce section, and I will tell you this is an original label. And as you can see, looking at here, one thing I always recommend to look at first is always that serving size. Without knowing the serving size, you have no idea what those numbers below it mean. And then when you're looking at these numbers and also that percent daily value, I do want you to recognize that it is based on a 2,000 calorie diet. So now that you're seeing what an original label looks like, let me show you what a new label would look like now. I still have potatoes here, it's the same type of product, but I want you to realize that the label looks slightly different. You will now see on serving size, where the original label just had kind of what servings per container show, that kind of font, serving size is now going to be in dark, bold print. So you're able to see it very clearly, so you can realize, hey, this is something I need to look at first when I'm looking at a label. You will also see they now have calories that are in dark, bold print. One of the biggest moves or reasons why is because we're looking at the epidemic of overweight and obesity in the United States, focusing on, hey, you need to take a look at calories because that can be important when it comes to your health. Also, another thing that is added on these new labels is that they are talking about now added sugars. They are now going to show you on labels how many sugars that manufacturer actually added to the product. So you're going to see here, added sugars are going to be under the total carbohydrates. When you're looking at total carbohydrates, that dark bold print, that will tell you how many carbs are in that whole entire serving size. And then we have dietary fiber, total sugars, and added sugars. Those are all types of carbohydrates. They're just kind of showing you what each of them provide. So this one actually has 0 grams of added sugars. Well, that's something because we have a potato here. Potatoes, we expect to see 0 grams of added sugar. We do see natural sugars there of 2 grams, but we're not going to expect that manufacturer to add sugar to potatoes. But I do have some other options here to just kind of show you about that added sugar. I have a bag of nuts and cranberries, and we have some yogurt flavored coated raisins in here. This is a newer label on here, and I want you to see in here that it now tells you includes 7 grams of added sugar. So there's 13 grams of total sugar, but the manufacturer actually added 7 more grams of added sugar. Most of that is probably coming from that yogurt coating on the outside of that, because the raisins in here, the cranberries in here, the nuts, they're gonna have natural sugars in there. So that's something that kind of shows you, okay, yes, this manufacturer added 7 grams of added sugars. One of the biggest reasons why they're adding this, again, is kind of watched, you know, obesity, diabetes, heart disease, all these things. By eliminating your added sugar intake, it can help make healthy choices. Kind of the best example to show you is I have a bag here of caramel M&Ms. As we would suspect, this is a new label, but when you look at this, it tells you total carbs is 20, dietary fiber is 0, total sugar is 18, but it includes 17 grams of added sugar. So out of those 18 grams of sugar in this product, the manufacturer added 17 grams, and again, per the serving size, to that. So you can tell here there's a lot of added sugars in here. Compared to when you've seen 0 or 6 grams added sugars, there's not very many of them, and most of them are probably the natural sugars in that product. So it's something to keep an eye out for. You're gonna see a change as we move along. Eventually, all products will move to this new labeling, but definitely the serving size, the calories, and the added sugars are the new things you're gonna see on those labels. As a dietitian, we always talk a lot about when you're going grocery shopping to kind of stay in the perimeter, the outside edge of the grocery store, because you're going to hit your produce, you're going to hit your proteins, you're going to hit your dairy. So a lot of things that won't be considered, I guess, those bad foods. When we're thinking more of those junk foods, the candies, the chips, the ice creams, things like that. But I do want to take note that there are so many great things that are nutritionally and healthy for us in those middle aisles. So we're going to go find some. That way you can take a look at what is good down them. Makes sense.
Okay.
So now we are in one of the aisles, and probably one of the most, I wouldn't say popular, but yet unpopular aisles. We're in the rice and pasta aisle, and that's something that's very common dish for a lot of individuals who live in the United States. One nice thing and one thing that's nutritious about this aisle is quinoa. If not many of you are familiar with quinoa, we have used this in many of our past recipes and episodes that we have done on iHeart Cooking. Quinoa can be a complete protein. It is a grain, but it has all those amino acids in there just like a protein would have. So it is a great option to have, and you find it next to a lot of the pastas and rice sections, or sometimes more in your ethnic section of the grocery store. That could be dependent on what grocery store you are at. But Meijer here has it here with the rice. It cooks similar to rice. The directions are in the back. Great source of nutrition, and as you can see, we have the new food labeling here as well. But it's going to be a good source of protein. So a great find that you can find in one of those middle aisles. So another product that you can find that's in the middle aisle that is great for us is whole wheat products. So whole wheat products like breads, they're going to have a labeling on here to help make sure for the consumer that you're choosing something that has 100% whole wheat. You can look at the ingredient list, but not many individuals know the trick for that, which I will tell you here in a little bit. The label you're going to look at for a whole wheat product is going to be this label right here. This little stamp will help us determine if this is truly 100% whole wheat, and it will actually tell you how many grams of that you have. We want to make at least half of our grains on our plate a whole wheat product. So this stamp will help us determine that. If you don't see the stamp, the best way to know if this product is 100% whole wheat is you're going to look at the ingredient list. The first ingredient should be whole wheat flour. If it's not whole wheat flour, if it says anything about enriched, it's not 100% whole wheat. Manufacturers, I'm going to tell you by the front of the label, can tend to maybe trick us, but they're not really tricking you because they do tell you everything you need to know in the back on that label. So it's something to kind of keep an eye out for. Definitely recommend whole grains. It has that whole entire grain intact, a lot of extra nutrition there. Anytime it's not whole grain, we're losing less and less in nutrition because the whole grain is no longer going to be intact with that. So something to look for that stamp, see if we're going to 100% whole wheat. Another section I like to talk about is dairy. So a lot of times as a dietitian, when I think of dairy, I'm going to a lot of times think of milk and yogurts. Those are probably the two main ones that are going to get you the calcium that you need. One thing I do want to kind of suggest with the yogurts is, again, watching that label for those added sugars. A lot of times manufacturers love to add extra sugar to the yogurt. So if we take a look here, We have a Yoplait original made with real fruit. Sounds really great, not to say that it isn't, but when you look over here at the label for one container, it's telling you, hey, we're adding 12 grams of added sugar to this, on top of a total of 19 grams of total sugars, making the total carbohydrate amount to 27 grams of carbohydrates. So many individuals, yes, you could probably fit this into a meal plan, no matter what you're looking at, but if you're wanting this with something else at a meal, you might want to find something that's a little bit lower in those added sugars. They do make other options available, like light yogurts. So we have a light peach yogurt here. And if we look at this label, again, for one container, they're saying 10 grams of added, or 10 grams of sugars. They're not actually telling you how much added sugar is actually on this one. So that's something to kind of be careful with, because we have two different products, same manufacturer. We have one that has the new label on it and one that does not have the new label, the original label on. Regardless, it tells you here total carbohydrates are 16 versus this total carbohydrates is 27. This one has 10 grams of sugar, this one has 19 grams of sugar. So we can automatically assume that this one's going to have less added sugar based on that total sugar and carbohydrate amount. Also, we have milks here in the dairy product, a great source of calcium, your vitamin D. You can get all kinds of milks out there. The most common we are used to seeing are those cow milks. We got whole, we got 2%, we got 1, we have skim. It is preference on what you're looking at for your daily needs. Any of these can work. It's just as you go from whole to skim, we're actually going to see that the product's going to have less calories, less saturated fats. So again, it depends what you're looking for. I do have children at home, so a lot of times my children were under the age of 1 and 2, or actually say under the age of 2. I did a lot of whole milk. Children that age, they need the extra fat for brain development. As for myself, I try to stick more to 1% or skim, just because I'm looking at less calories and less saturated fats to help with weight management and also prevention of cardiovascular diseases. There's many individuals out in the US who cannot consume regular cow's milk. They have a lot of GI disturbances. So now you're going to see a lot of manufacturers making a lot of different types of milks available. You can see a shelf of all different types of milks here that they have available. One of the newest ones coming out is this A2 milk. It actually does not provide one of the proteins, helping it make it a little bit easier to digest for those who have a hard time digesting cow's milk. And then we have one called Fairlife. They have one that is made with organic protein, so we got our organic ones. If we come down to a shelf down here a little bit more, you're going to see a little bit more ones that are made with soy milk, almond milk, flaxseed milk. We have our lactose milks, we have our silks, we have our breezes, we have our cashew milk. I mean, you name it, you can get a lot of different milks on the market. And it's just a great source that there's so many options out there to get the calcium that you need. For an adult, the serving size is 3 servings of dairy a day. It's either 1 serving is 8 ounces of milk or 1 container of yogurt to get the calcium and the vitamin D that you're looking for. So a lot of great options out on the market, and anything can work in anybody's diet depending on what they're looking for. As we wrap up our shopping trip here, we do want to send a special thanks to Meijer for allowing us to come in here and help give you all tips about our ideas when it comes to shopping.
Just remember those tips, what to look for with produce, different types of proteins, making sure you have a grocery list with you so you're not just grabbing things, just indicators. And again, if you want to see this again, it will be on YouTube, so you're able to watch it again whenever you need to.
Absolutely. And it will be helpful going back to YouTube, especially with all the explanations I gave about those new labels that are coming out, kind of talk about that new stamp with the whole grains. We talked a lot about the perimeter and also the internal aisles, that there is a lot of good nutrition there as well. Thank you for coming along with us on our shopping trip today. We hope you enjoyed this episode and everything that we had to provide for you, and we hope to see you next month.